Thank you very much. And yeah, thanks for coordinating here. So that was quite the introduction. I'm going to start off by saying that, oh no, it's not working. I'll hit the button. That I'm a little bit lonely here. So normally this presentation is brought to you by Andrea, Amy, and myself, two leads of the GeoServer project. Andrea went to FOSS4G NA the other week, and so it's just me here with you today. I will try to talk really fast like an Italian and wave my hands a little bit just to give you some of that rich experience. There's a lot of slides here, and I'll go relatively quickly. And I encourage you to take notes, maybe wave your hand if there's something you want me to go slower on. And if you want to follow up with me after, visit me at the GeoCap booth. So GeoServer at a glance for people who are new to FOSS4G. First of all, welcome to FOSS4G. GeoServer is a Java web application really focused on just sharing and publishing your data, wherever it is in your organization, to the public, to people so that they can reach it. To do that, we do as many standards as we possibly can, because we want your information to reach as wide an audience as possible. GeoServer is brought to you by some core contributors. These are companies that commit ongoing resources to the sustainability of the project. GeoSolutions, GeoCat, AfriGIS, and Camp to Camp. Two of these organizations are new to the core contributor this year. So Camp to Camp and AfriGIS are new core contributors to the project, and we really want to thank them for that ongoing commitment. It's also brought to you by a few sponsors, and these sponsors help us reach some financial, take on some things that are out of the reach of individual developers. We also have a few new standards which will come up during the course of this presentation. So we're starting to see the transition from the XML standards, web map server and so on, to more of the OGC API standards, and that's part of an industry-wide shift. And for people using GeoServer, we look forward to helping you through that transition. Releases covered by this presentation. GeoServer 227 is it's in the maintenance phase right now. It'll reach end of life by March. GeoServer 228 is the current stable release. And we're going to be talking a little bit about GeoServer 3, which is something we can look forward to next year. Are you using an older version? Please upgrade. This is kind of like the rule of two with Star Wars and Sith Lords. There's always two releases for GeoServer, standard and the maintenance release. We only as a community have capacity to support 2 releases of GeoServer at a time. For those of you who need longer term support, you can talk to some of our service providers. What's in it for you to upgrade? Well, that's what this presentation is about. We're going to be talking about some of the new features in GeoServer 228 and 227. At the bottom of each slide, you can see why it was done, who sponsored the work. In the middle, you can see the author, who was responsible, and then what version the functionality is available. I'm not going to have a chance to thank each and every person or each and every sponsor, but I just wanted to showcase and thank them for their thank them for making the project successful. The first category of updates I'm going to talk about is configuration and setup. The big news here is the minimum version of Java required is now Java 17. This is part of the work done to support GeoServer 3, and I can thank Camp to Camp and Gabriel for that work. Another bit of work that Gabriel's worked on is making GeoServer faster. So GeoServer is now considerably faster to start up, and this is a really nice performance improvement for everybody, but it's especially a nice performance improvement for those working in a clustered environment. Another kind of fun one here is we can now configure and advertise attribute restrictions. So this is some functionality you could have done by hand in GeoServer 1 that is finally, many years later available in GeoServer 2. So you can now go in and open up a little screen for each attribute and give it a range of options, or give it a range of alternatives, or a range between a minimum and a maximum. And that comes out as part of the WFS protocol for people editing and so forth. Another fun one is being able to see who made the configuration change. So when you've got many editors working on a GeoServer, you could see when it's last modified. You can now see who made the change. An interesting one also for people working in large GeoServer environments is the ability to control what each, to limit where data can be accessed on the machine. So to have a little file system sandbox where people can upload their data and they can't access the rest of the file system. So that can be done for GeoServer as a whole, for an administrator, or if you set up an administrator for each workspace can have its own little data folder. We've also updated the EPSG database. There was quite a big jump from 9 to 11. An interesting one is the content security policy. So this is a set of browser restrictions that just allow GeoServer to operate a little bit more safely. By introducing a content security policy, we've mitigated a whole category of security vulnerabilities called cross-site scripting. Now, there's a warning here. When you upgrade to GeoServer 227, please double check your proxy base URL setting. In many cases, it previously worked if you had misconfigured it. Now with this upgrade, the browser will actually block you from interacting if you don't have your GeoServer set up consistently. Okay, so mapping. Legend graphics, after many years, can finally make a nice legend out of the classic symbology encoding functions like categorize and recode and interpolate. So previously it only made nice legends if you had a series of rules. Now it will actually make nice legends if you're using one of these well-known standard functions. And a big one for me, and this is a key accomplishment of the GeoServer 3 initiative, is changing out the raster processing engine from Java Advanced Imaging, which was last updated in 2009, to a brand new ImageN processing engine, which we released just this last September. And this was made possible with a donation of code from Oracle, the owners of Java, to the Eclipse Foundation. And we've been able to lead a team to start to domesticate that, add test cases, and make it available for our community. So this is a really key accomplishment. Data sources and formats. So this is kind of a fun one. We've been able to really make use of this GeoFull raster algebra engine. So previously this was only available if you were doing styles or web processing, like in a WMS, but now we can start to do it for all outputs. So you can start to use this raster calculator engine for web processing, service, and CSW output. So you can generate NDVI kind of on the fly, as an example. And another fun one is being able to integrate with the cloud-native format, GeoParquet. This is a new community module. GeoParquet is a format that uses the DB, and yeah, we're starting to get some integrations of this with GeoServer. Another fun one in the cloud-native format is the PM Tiles community module. So this allows GeoServer to consume really large vector tile data sets in PM Tiles and combine the data and produce normal maps and integrate it with other systems. So yeah, it's a nice development. Oh, I'm not sure I know this one. Okay, this is a new community module for Single Store. I don't actually know what Single Store does. Does anybody know? I'm assuming it's a cloud database of some sort. Yeah. This is the disadvantage of doing a community project. The community is very active, and I can't always keep up with what they're doing. Services. A really big accomplishment for us this year is finally restoring our OGC site compliance. Now, I've often found that many organizations adopt GeoServer, assuming that we are site compliant. We haven't actually been site compliant since 2014, when we lost our build server due to some vandalism. And we've led an initiative to try and restore site compliance several times, and we were finally successful. We did some initial work with the OGC API features last year, and we were able to restore our site compliance earlier this year. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that we can now say we are site certified, but this is an annual cost. So this year, a number of organizations, OSGeo UK and Gaia 3D, are paying for GeoServer to be site certified. But if we want to be certified next year, we need sponsors to step forward in order to pay the OGC for this little sticker. So a sponsorship opportunity for those interested. We have really benefited from restoring these site certifications. They operate as kind of black box testing for GeoServer and gives us great confidence that we're implementing the standards correctly. And to that note, we actually can finally announce that OGC API Features has graduated from an experimental R&D community module to a full-fledged extension. So this represents the first OGC API REST JSON service to be available out of the box with GeoServer. So we're really happy to see this transition underway. Camp to Camp funded a code sprint, yeah, folks from several organizations pulled together to make that happen last year. So this operates as a service that you can browse using HTTP or JSON. It has a full open API Swagger description, and then we support a number of different conformances. So we support core and filtering and so on. And interestingly for GeoServer, whenever there was like a draft standard, we always left that as a community module. That approach doesn't work for OGC API. We actually have to accept that our official stable release is going to contain some implementations that are not finished yet. The standard isn't completed yet. And so those implementations are available as options which you can turn on to try out, but they're not on by default. But in the future, when the standard is done, they will be on by default. So this just as I guess an advisory that if you are using these services, you've got the option to turn on functionality which is not completely standardized yet. And by that token, the OGC API process module is actually very close to being completed. We'd really like to see this one done. I think it's actually passing site certification and so on. And this is a really nice module. It does synchronous or asynchronous execution. We have a few additions that we've done that are not in the official specs. And in general, we've got process and tiles which are passing site compliance. And so they're very close to being completed. And we would really like to see a few fixes and so on applied so that they can graduate and be available for everybody. We've got another category of standards which we've got a partial implementation, but we need people to step forward and express interest. And then we've got a couple ones here, OGC Records API, which no one's expressed interest in yet. So please step forward. This is a really kind of hot topic for development. Moving on to distribution. We have an official Docker image. And so this has been a kind of a long-standing community activity. It's just had its Java 17 upgrade, uses Tomcat and so on. So this is a new distribution option for GeoServer. And in the last year, they've added a GDAL build option for those wanting more raster formats. Another fun distribution option is GeoServer Cloud. So this is another repository where they've taken the components of GeoServer and they've packaged it all up in Spring applications, Spring Boot applications, so that they can scale independently. So I encourage you to check that out. There's a Helm chart and so on, so you can try things out pretty easily. Now I get to an awkward topic: security vulnerabilities. So we have updated our security policy. So it's the same policy, but we had to change the name. We used to call this responsible disclosure, and the security researchers were grumpy with us, and so they've given us the advice to call it coordinated vulnerability disclosure. So we had a proposal to change that name. But we've also had some very interesting interactions with the security community, especially as regulation starts to come into effect around the world. And so we've been revising our security procedures for GeoServer. So let me see here. We issued a little bulletin of some security fixes that happened recently in June. In general, if you update GeoServer and are on one of the most recent stable and release, you will be completely up to date with security patches. We make a policy of never publishing a vulnerability until everybody's had a chance to upgrade. Now that said, okay, we didn't actually highlight anything fun this year. The top security issue there, 302.220, actually affected several projects. It was a vulnerability in GeoTools that affected GeoServer and GeoNetwork. So this was the reason for this security announcement. So here's what we've got going on. Just checking how much time I've got. I'm okay. So our big push right now is GeoServer 3. So in 2024, we made an announcement as a community saying, hey, first, we are facing a cliff. We have to upgrade from Spring Framework 5 to Spring Framework 6, and that requires a cascade, an avalanche of changes. To do that, we have to update our version of Spring, which means we have to rewrite all our OAuth security integrations. We've got to update our version of Java from Java 11 to Java 17. That means we need to replace our entire image processing engine. We need to update our version of Java Enterprise Edition to Jakarta Enterprise Edition, which means we need to update Tomcat and Jetty and also our user interface library Wicket. Now this was a huge amount of work, and I'm going to have a presentation specifically on this activity later in the event. Yeah, so we've completed milestone 1. We're in the middle of milestone 2, and we're currently on schedule to complete GeoServer 3 in time for our usual March release cadence. So just to let you know, we're working hard, it's absolutely terrifying, and it's going well. And for details, please attend my other talk. Another work in progress is transitioning the docs from rich structured text to Markdown. This is an activity I started last year, and Peter Smith from Afrigis is picking up. And you can actually go to like the GitHub pages and have a look at the Markdown transition and how far it's gotten. We also have an interesting one here. We're trying to think how to express this. It's been difficult for people to tell with the community modules which ones are getting ready to release and which ones are kind of just abandoned. And so I've made a proposal here to make a community pending profile. These are community modules that really need to be exercised and tested before they can be released to a wider audience. And we're going to, this is an opt-in thing for developers. We ask them to clearly identify what work is needed to complete the activity, and then we'll release these alongside of GeoServer so people can try them in their stable production instances. Another common request is to move from Jira to GitHub issues. If you're interested in that, please step forward. There are some scripts to use as a starting point, but we just need volunteers with time. And then, yeah, what else are you interested in? It is an open project. And yeah, our roadmap, we conduct public meetings and so forth. So yeah, please help us plan for the future. With that in mind, we do have a sponsorship program. I mentioned these people at the start, and we've got opportunities to sponsor it for next year and also for site certification for next year. Thanks, folks. That's what's happening with GeoServer.
Thank you very much, Jody. Do we have any questions from the room? Anyone wants to request any particular new feature to add? Just please wait a second for the microphone. It would be embarrassing to talk without a microphone.
So just a simple question. Can I run the GeoServer on Java 21 as well?
Pardon? Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, we have like workflows and so on to test it on 21 as well. So we're very confident.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the upgrade then to GeoServer 3 will be relatively smooth as if I upgrade through the others as well previously?
So we're deliberately not changing the data directory in order to give everyone a smooth upgrade path. And I'm trying to think how to express it. The Spring Framework 5 really has reached end of life. So the moment Spring Framework 3 is available, I would encourage people to test it out and to plan their migration. The risk we're running here is if there's any security vulnerability in the Spring Framework, we can only mitigate. We can't be sure to offer everyone an upgrade path immediately. And for those that operate, in an environment that's very concerned about all of this stuff, we want to make sure that you're, can obtain operational authority and keep GeoServer running. So I would have much rathered all of this happened a year ago before Spring Framework 5 reached end of life, but I'm really glad it's going ahead now.
Okay, thanks.
Any more questions?
Okay, well, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jody. Please join me in thanking Jody.